the point at which Cygnus exits the vicinity of the International Space Station some 20 minutes after its release, signifying the turn of the rest of the flight of Cygnus through its deorbiting on Sunday morning. While all this activity is going on, two Russian cosmonauts aboard the International Space Station, flight engineers Alexander Skvortsov and Oleg Artemyev, are completing preparations for a spacewalk that they will conduct out of the Pirs docking compartment on Monday morning, the 181st spacewalk in support of space station assembly and maintenance, the second spacewalk for each of these two cosmonauts. They exited for a 7-hour, 23-minute spacewalk back on June 19th, and will do so again on Monday morning to deploy a small Peruvian nanosatellite and to install and retrieve science equipment on the hull of the Russian segment of the International Space Station. Our spacewalk coverage on Monday morning on NASA television will begin at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. The Pirs hatch expected to open at 9 a.m. Central Time for the start of a spacewalk that should last about 6 hours and 15 minutes in duration. Again, Skvortsov and Artemyev wrapping up preparations for that spacewalk. On Saturday, they will don their Russian Orlan spacesuits in the Pirs docking compartment for what is called a dry run exercise, basically a dress rehearsal as they move around and test all of the Orlan suit systems one final time before beginning their spacewalk activities on Monday morning.
Okay.
Station Houston on Space to Ground 2 for Cygnus release.
What's you up to, Mark?
Hey, Tonto, your go to perform Cygnus release. That's step 3 through 5 in 1.320. No changes to the times. 10:40 the window opens. 11:09 the window closes.
Copy that. 3 through 5 and 1.320, and we will expect a 10:40 trigger pull.
Good copy.
10:40 representing Greenwich Mean Time, or 5:40 a.m. Central Time. As you see in this view, the Cygnus spacecraft is still in the grasp of the Canadarm2 for another 12.5 minutes, now entering an orbital sunrise over the South Atlantic as the International Space Station and Cygnus begin to move from southwest to northeast. At an orbital sunrise over the South Atlantic, as the International Space Station and Cygnus begin to move from southwest to northeast at an altitude of 260 statute miles in an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. We're in a short loss of signal of a downlink television capability from the International Space Station through our tracking and data relay satellite system. We should relay satellite system. Downlink television from the orbital outpost about 4.5 minutes from now, in time for the release of Cygnus from the Canadarm2. The reference that you heard a moment ago in the exchange between Mark Vande Hei and Reed Wiseman about pulling the trigger was essentially the command that is sent by robotic arm operator Alexander Gerst, who's alongside Wiseman in the cupola of the station. Pulling the trigger opens the snares on the end effector of the Canadarm2 that will physically release Cygnus. The arm is then maneuvered away from the grapple fixture on the cargo craft, and Cygnus will be free to fire its thrusters to begin a departure maneuver away from the International Space Station.
Awesome. Let me just quickly check ISS track to see where it is. The ISS, I mean. And yes, it is flying over this
Here
South
in the
Atlantic.
flight control room,
Just over
Flight Director
Falklands.
Brian Smith has pulled his team of flight controllers, and at Dulles, Virginia, the Orbital Sciences team also has pulled its flight control team. Everybody reporting that they are in readiness and everything is go for the release of Cygnus to complete its month-long mission at the International Space Station. The next series of U.S. commercial cargo ships that will fly to the International Space Station. Next up in the queue is the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft that is scheduled to launch no earlier than September 19th from the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida for a transit of just over 24 hours to the International Space Station and a grappling berthing to the same Earth-facing port of the Harmony module as Cygnus has resided at for the past month. That will be followed in short order in the mid-October time frame for the next flight of Orbital, the Orbital 3 mission, and another launch from Wallops, Virginia, to send another cache of cargo to the International Space Station and the crew that will be on board at that time. Just under 8 minutes now until the scheduled release of Cygnus to begin the final phase of its journey. Once again, Cygnus launched atop the Orbital Sciences Antares rocket from the Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia back on July 13th. That was a 3-day rendezvous, reaching the International Space Station back on July 16th. We are expecting to reacquire our downlink television capability from the International Space Station momentarily through the tracking and data relay satellite, and there we are. A good view of the Cygnus craft, the SS Janus Voss, about to be cast free from the station's Canadarm2 robotic arm under the control of European Space Agency flight engineer Alexander Gerst and NASA flight engineer Reed Wiseman.
Okay, I'll be doing this in KSP later on today, but I won't record that because of reasons. Yep, another view. You can see the engine. In KSP is represented by an LV1, I think it is. The tiny thing. It is so slow and annoying. Yep, that camera's a bit purple. Yeah, currently not much is going on here. If I have time today, I'll probably just do a... Just start working on the ATV tribute. I had to install the CSS mod for it to work. Because, you know, otherwise... Because I want to have... It's so realistic, basically, that it just... very realistic.